Hi, my name is Rachel Thompson. I'm a longtime member of the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group. You can find them at glvwg.org. I'm here on behalf of the Easton Book Fair to share a short craft talk with you regarding critique. I'm a published author of science fiction, fantasy, social satire, historical fiction, and a nonfiction freelance journalism. And previously for the book fair, I've done something on beta readers, so go there to learn more about beta readers. I first must make a distinction between cold reading versus critique partnerships. Cold reading is where you come and read your work publicly among others who have not heard your work before to get their responses and impressions. The Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group hosts an online cold reading group every week, and you can go to our website to learn more about that. Also on our website, we have a comprehensive set of guidelines and rules and ideas about critique and critique groups, which if you want to get into this a little deeper, this is a good place to start. I would encourage writers to definitely find critique partners or engage in some other kind of critique activity because we all have blind spots. We all have writing habits that we ourselves are not aware of or can't see. One thing I should mention about critique group right off the bat is the word critique itself is a scary word. Lots of people react to that word. It connotates bad, no good. What did I do wrong? The fact of the matter is, in literary critique, the process is not to destroy or beat up a writer. It's not about that at all. It's about improving the work. The attitude should always be about that. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is briefly go over some of the 10 rules of critique that I've developed. These are very cursory, very basic, but they should help you get on the right track a little bit. And critique is for everybody. If you're new and you want to participate, you should. If you've been at it for a long time, like I have, do participate in critique. The reason I do it is because it helps me stay in the game. It helps me keep on my toes. That's what we need to do to produce the best work. So my first rule, not really a rule, a suggestion. Critique what you know. Everybody understands something about writing, whether you're new or old. So when you're in a critique group, whether you're in a partnership or in a cold reading group, focus on the areas you understand. In this way, people on any level can offer ideas. If you're good at spelling, for example, share that. If you're good at dialogue, tell us what you know about dialogue. Any aspect of writing that you feel reasonably confident with is what you should share, and try to avoid sharing things you're not sure about. Also important, number two, is explain what you know. Whatever you point out, back it up with craft reasons and logic to justify your observation. You just don't attack somebody. You just don't say, oh, that stinks, I don't like it. No, you don't say that. You say, well, I don't really understand what the character's saying here. It's very unclear to me. That is a simple aspect of explaining what's wrong. You don't have to know every little craft detail, but if you don't understand something, say it. Explain what you know, explain what you think. Just don't pick it out of the air. The other thing, a big one, never attack the reader. Your tone as a critique partner matters. You know, you're going to explain your observations in neutral language and avoid accusatory language. You're not going to say to the writer, hey, that stinks. No. You might say, there's a problem here, and I think this is what the problem is. That is not an attack. Also, comment on the writing and not the writer. Also important. This is not about the person that's writing. This is about what they are writing. Whether it's your genre or not, good writing is good writing, and bad writing is bad writing. So whether or not you write what this person is writing. It shouldn't matter because you should be able to pick out craft issues that apply to all writing. So, um, my next one, do not defend. Unless you are attacked, then you can go tell the person attacking you to go to hell. No ad hominem attacks and no defending what people say. A lot of time is wasted in critique groups with persons fighting against or arguing with the person who pointed out an observation. Remember that the person pointing out the observation, it's their opinion, it's their idea. You should not defend against it. You, as a person being critiqued, should listen and be thankful. And if you don't like it, if you have an emotional reaction, if it really pisses you off, so be it. Keep your mouth shut, walk away, and think about it, because the chances are very good that this person has something to offer that you need to hear. Grains of salt. Everybody that's engaged in the critique process needs to understand this is all taken with a grain of salt. What one person may think or feel may not be what another person thinks or feels. So you take anyone and everyone's advice into consideration. Nobody is preaching gospel here. If they say something you don't like or you don't agree with, keep it to yourself, think about it. What makes sense to you, keep it. What doesn't make sense to you, discard it. So when people critique you, do not take it as you must or you must not. Take it as a point of consideration, something you need to think about. And critique, receive, the idea about critique is to receive it with your brain and not your emotions, not your heart. This is a professional endeavor whereby professional people, or at least people who want to act professionally or should act professionally, should be talking to each other like adversarial lawyers. They don't hate each other. They have points of contention to argue or points of contention to discuss. So that's where this is at. This is not about emotions. This is about the cold facts of how the craft is working or not working. If you don't have to like it to help make it better, and they don't have to like your work generally, for you to be able to learn something from that person about your work. So, expect feelings. This is a thick skin is necessary, although it shouldn't be, but our natural emotional response is defensive. You need to put that aside and put on your professional hat. The thick skin is necessary because at first it's going to hurt. But once you withdraw, stop and think and consider the facts, that pain is going to go away. Expect your feelings. Expect to feel upset or angry, but don't let that deter you. Listen and think about what this other person says because it could be very important to you. Put your emotional responses aside while the critique is in process. Feelings also matter. They do matter. Emotions matter if the work has an impact on you as a reader emotionally. Share the emotions you feel about the work because an emotional response from the reader is the ideal. It's what we as readers are trying to do. We want to draw our readers in. We want them to have an emotional response to our work. So if the work moves you, the reviewer, tell us. If the reviewer must say so, even if you don't know why, tell us you like it. This is the one time an emotional critique is welcome. Otherwise, leave emotions out of it, of giving and receiving critique. It's not about how we feel about our work. It's about the craft of the work, how our writing actually functions or not. So we ask the group. You can limit what you want the group to ask for specific considerations. Ask the group the questions you feel you need answered. If you're involved in a cold reading group or a critique partnership, you have the ability to set the criteria. You have the ability to ask the questions you need answered. And so that is basically my 10 rules of critique. I do feel that if a person coming in understands what they are getting into, they will hang longer and benefit from a critique group. For me, a critique justified is important as is important because it gives me a pathway to correction. If somebody can point out what's wrong with my work and tell me why, then I have a method to fix what's wrong with it. And I may or may not agree, but if two or three different people have said the same thing, see the same problem, we have a winner. There is a problem there. So lastly, I've done this before. I start each critique with a paragraph on what the reader likes about the submission. That's in a critique partnership where I'm reading with other people long term. But the same holds true with a cold reading group. You listen, you see somebody read, your first thing should be, hopefully, what you liked before you go on and explain what you don't like. In this way, what happens is you put the best foot forward and set the tone of positivity, because the entire point of having a critique or doing a critique is to learn, is to expand, is to improve your work and improve your ability as a writer. So I would encourage all writers to find partners or visit a critique group such as the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group and get involved and test your writing to see where you're at and where you're going. I hope that all of you will consider this further, and I hope you'll visit the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group and take a long look at the critique guidelines. I thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you somewhere in a bookstore, I hope. Bye for now.